Good morning and happy Friday. I wanted to share with you today some steps that I use and I teach my clients about meeting the discomfort that we bump into throughout our lives. What we know is that when we resist what is actually happening, we we suffer, we experience distress. The question is, how do we tolerate the distress of the feelings we don't want to feel? So, one of the things I've learned, and perhaps you know as well, is that life will always have experiences that I don't like. And my familiar response, and I would say in my experience through my 35 years in healthcare, working in palliative care and critical care medicine, is that our familiar response is to resist what's happening because it doesn't feel good. That's just a human response. That isn't anything wrong with you or some flaw in you or in me. It's just our human experience. The truth is life will continue to feel hard unless we learn how to be with the experiences that cause us distress. There are many, many, many approaches to this. And I'm sure lots of you in my community have already done many of those things. Approaching these experiences by manipulating our thoughts, changing how we see these experiences, shifting our attention to something that is positive, cultivating gratitude, looking for the positive, perhaps muscling through. And I have done all of these. And what I want you to know is this becomes a full time job to scan our environment and be constantly looking for the things that working with our thoughts. Our brain has a job, several jobs, but one of its jobs is to think. That's just what it does. It's kind of like the heart beats. The brain thinks. There will always be thoughts, always. If this is where we're spending our time and we're working to manipulate these thoughts, we are bringing focus, attention, and energy to working these thoughts, to working these thoughts. And I don't know about you, but because these thoughts are a constant running narrative, that means my attention is always going to be here. I'm always going to be trying to manipulate and stay connected to my thoughts so that I can be aware. Kind of like playing whack a mole. The truth is, I've tried this, and I'd actually prefer to spend my time, my energy, my focus on living a life that I love. So, the game changer is, and this is supported by neuroscience, is actually learning how to meet what is present, what is actually happening in our space. And I know that some of you already know this, but the trouble is it's painful. It feels so uncomfortable and it's so unfamiliar. The game changer is when we are grounded in our own truth, when we know ourselves, this deep part of us that's always been present, always will be present, then we can have a relationship with this part of us that is experiencing these difficult life events or circumstances. It is also the place from which our best responses are made available to us. So an event happens, we feel the things, we find ourselves, we then can bring our best response because it's coming from the truth of who we are, not reacting from this space. Just to go back for a second about manipulating our thoughts, that's another form of resistance. We're trying to shift to something different. It's still the experience of, only we've sort of created this sort of spirituality around, well, if I just shift my attention, if I just think, shift my thoughts, it's all the same thing. It's resistance to what is happening, to our experience. There's no way to live a life that we love and avoid the stuff that happens in our lives that are uncomfortable and distressing. Grief is always going to be part of our lives, always, always, and forever. It's just, how do we meet grief? How do we meet anger and shame and fear? How do we be with these things? and love our lives. It is definitely possible. This is the work that I do with the women leaders that I coach and mentor and guide. So here's the thing. Once we meet ourselves, once we learn to connect here with the truth of who we are, this becomes just a knowing. It's grounded, it's solid. This is just what we know. This doesn't exist here, right? This knowing of who we are becomes what I would call an embodied sense, a felt sense of like, right, this is the truth of who I am. And I can then interact with the experiences in my life, not rejecting them, not pushing them away, but this becomes grounded as an experience. It becomes an anchor. It becomes my inner GPS from the truth of who I am. The dreams and desires that bubble up are my truth. Those are the things that are for me, that life is saying here, this is your life, live into it. It becomes my North Star. Living from here. So here's the steps to being in the present moment, able to accept what is, all in service of living our best lives, of living lives that we love, even when life brings difficult circumstances. The first thing is awareness. Awareness of how we have been doing. Awareness of when we push away, and we all do. When do I resist what is, distract myself to do something different? Awareness. That's the first step. And then once we're aware and we take an opportunity to say, oh, here's something that I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel this emotion. I don't want to feel this experience. We can take little sips of that discomfort to start. Just little sips. Right? We don't have to chug the whole experience. We can take little sips of it. Let ourselves feel it. Yes, I feel this. Sometimes I talk to my clients about sort of sitting beside the experience. We don't have to wrap our arms around it and that is probably going to activate so many defense strategies and mechanisms. But what we can do is we can meet. We can sit beside. We could take a little sip of the experience. Set it aside, right? This allows us to feel safe. Taking a sip, am I safe in this moment? Yes, I've taken a sip and I'm still safe. Then we work on locating ourselves beneath that experience. Finding me, right? Here's me. Here's this experience. I feel the stickiness of it. I feel the heaviness of it, however this language is for you. I'm me, and I'm going to take another little sip. Okay. And then as we get more familiar with this practice, we can start to feel the resonance, the discomfort, because we always will. We always will. But now that we're grounded as us, feel this. And, oh, right. Here's this experience. It's okay. It's okay that you can be here. This is what it is. And automatically, as we take little sips, even those early stages of little sips, and not wrapping our arms, what happens is the suffering, the distress we feel goes down. It's ironic, but this is exactly what happens. So there's many small experiences you can practice with here in everyday life. The tiniest little things that can be a practice place, because this learning how to meet what is a practice. Life will always present new things, right, in our experience. And I experience them too. That's the truth. The whole life will always hold these. But we can practice this with the little experiences. Let's say you go to Starbucks and you go through the drive-through, you're on your way to work, and heck, you take your first sip of the coffee. It's definitely someone else's order and not what you wanted. Do you feel the little flare of anger, irritation, story? Why the heck does this happen to me? Right? All the little things that bubble up. Those are perfect practice places. Perhaps it's the weather. You had something particular planned and you booked a vacation and it pours rain. You're in the Caribbean and it pours rain the entire time. How can you, I mean, that's probably a little bit bigger one to sip at, but how can you be with the truth of this is what's happening right now? This is the truth. How about a transit system delay when you're on your way to an important meeting, right? These things activate us, they activate our nervous system. How can we can use these little practices in our lives? It starts with awareness, and then we can start to take little sips of them, right? Right? I'm just going to practice taking a little sip of the emotion, the experience I don't want to feel, the thing I would normally try to manipulate up here and push away. And then locate me, the truth of who I am. This is a really key skill. Finding me underneath. So, leaving you with on this Friday, how present can you get when things aren't what you desire? Notice what happens when you approach these situations from this is just the truth of what is. And can you locate yourself beneath the experience of what is happening? Find you. This is the truth of what is in me. This is my truth. And see if you can relate to the experience from that perspective. Hope you have a great weekend. And if this speaks to you, share it. I invite you to share it with your community, with your friends. Tag someone that you know, perhaps a girlfriend, a colleague that you know would be interested in this. All right. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great weekend.